All right, let's talk Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, the big news for the Bengals involves one superstar playmaker in particular, when he will get signed. I know that's been dominating the headlines, but while that's been going on, the Cincinnati Bengals front office made a really smart, kind of sneaky good move. Should be a great sign for Cincinnati going forward. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, look, I know all you Bengals fans right now, you're waiting for number one to finally sign that massive deal. By the time you watch this video, he may already have, but the Bengals are also making other great additions, including what I think may be the steal of this entire cycle as we work through roster cut downs and teams finalizing their 53-man squads. Let's get into this latest report highlighting the newest Cincinnati Bengal. Then we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is courtesy of SI.com. The Bengals acquired defensive end KJ Henry on waivers from the Commanders earlier this week. The 25-year-old is entering his second NFL season after playing alongside former Bengals first-round pick Myles Murphy at Clemson. Henry had a dominant preseason for the Commanders. He finished with an 82.9 overall grade from Pro Football Focus, which included 10 quarterback pressures and a 20.8% pass rush win rate. Those are dominant numbers. Even for the preseason, those are ridiculously good numbers. KG Henry himself was surprised he was waived by Washington, being a second-year man who was literally on the upswing, was starting to get better and better. The Commanders, for some reason, let him go. Bengals, being a smart team, picked him up. Love this move from Cincinnati. Curious what your thoughts are on this are. But first, Cincinnati fans, in the comment section below, football is finally back, just a few short days away from now. So now's your last chance. Get it in writing what your prediction for the 2024 Bengals regular season is going to be with their final record: 16-1, 10-7, 12-5, 13-4, whatever it is. Give us your Bengals prediction, final regular season record. Put it in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest under the radar move here by Cincinnati?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a great move for Cincinnati. I think it's a great move for the future of this defensive line, rather. So I think they got a lot of good guys now, a lot of guys that, quite frankly, have been around for a while. You got Sam Hubbard, who's been pretty decent for a good amount of time. You got Trey Hendrickson, who's done really well, and he's gotten better every single season. Star right there. You got, the vet that came over, Sheldon Rankins, a guy that is an interesting addition as well. Then you finally got BJ Hill, but those are all guys that have been around 5-6 years plus. We're talking about the future. We're talking about some young guys potentially to infuse, because you can't pay all of those guys, and you might not even want to keep all of those guys around for the future. Myles Murphy looks like a decent player. We've done some cuts of him before. He looks like a guy that could potentially be a star on this defensive line. Then you bring in KJ Henry, like you said. This is a guy that's on the upswing. He had I'd say very mediocre first season with the Commanders, but it looks like he went through an off season. He did a lot of hard work, and now he looks tremendously better. He did great in this preseason. So, like you said, I think he's a little bit surprised. I think the Bengals are probably surprised that he was let go, but hey, we have a guy, we can scoop him up. 82.9 PFF grade throughout the preseason. Great pass rushing grades as well, 79.8 right there. This is a guy who's really, really solid. And there's one other thing I want to touch on that I think is really important. Because we've done a couple of videos, if you go back and look about early on this offseason, or about the time of the draft going forward, we talked about the Los Angeles Rams and how they drafted two guys that played together like a pod of players. We talked about Fisk and we talked about Verse. Two guys played together, same school. There's some chemistry there. There's that ability to, play off each other. Have just, I think it's a good for the defensive line. And now you're doing it again. You see the Bengals make a smart move, like another smart team, the Los Angeles Rams. Myles Murphy, KJ Henry, both coming from the same school, same year, same draft class out of Clemson. So I think this is a really smart move from the Bengals. I'm excited to see how it develops, because I think this could be pretty big, two starting defensive linemen for them going forward.
Yeah, I think there's an old Jimmy Johnson quote that comes to mind when I saw this news. He says, one of the reasons, or one of the best ways, I should say, to win in the National Football League is to just sit back and wait for bad teams and dumb teams to do dumb stuff and then take advantage of it, right? I'm kind of butchering it there, but that's basically what his whole methodology was. Listen, we're going to wait for other teams to do something stupid, then we're going to take advantage of it. And Washington here did something stupid. KJ Henry was a developmental prospect coming out of Clemson, fifth-round pick, right? They were not expecting him to come in and light the world on fire. And based on the statistics in 2023, the analytics, he really didn't. But when you get really deep into it, he did just as well as pretty much any other rookie defensive lineman. For example, he was only a point or two worse than Miles Murphy was for the Cincinnati Bengals. And you don't see the Bengals cutting Murphy, waiving him just after one season. That would be stupid. That would be idiotic, especially when you consider the fact that Henry was playing on a defense that was so dysfunctional in the second half of the year, where I don't know how you can grade anybody based on how Washington was playing the last 6, 7, 8 games of 2023. So this was just a dumb move by the Commanders, especially when you consider that he was on the upswing and dominating, right? He was just crushing it. This wasn't an example here of Cincinnati buying low. This was the example of the Cincinnati Bengals buying high at incredibly low prices, right? They basically picked up a player for free that is on the upswing. You don't see this happen at all, right? This is a thing that's absolutely bonkers here. And I don't understand what the Commanders are doing. I thought this was the stupidest move any team made during this entire cycle, which the opposite of that, of course, is the Bengals' smartest move, picking up KJ Henry. I think it's an obvious steal. I think you bring up a great point. The fact that this defensive line is getting a little older. I mean, they're not ancient by any means, but, injuries are going to start to play a turn. You're going to have to play, of course, we all know Jamar Chase, Burrow's getting the big deal. You're going to have to look for some younger, cheaper guys probably next 2-3 years. And I think KJ Henry, when it's all said and done, will be one of those key contributors at a discount. This is incredibly smart by the Bengals front office, Blackburn, Tobin, everyone across the board. Really great job. And I know a lot of people like to hate on the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of traditionally how they manage the roster. We've talked about it a lot this season. They've been making a lot of really, really smart moves, and the addition of KJ Henry is just the next one of those.